Today on Faces of Florence, Bo Myers. A true servant's heart is hard to find, but Bo Myers and Junebugs Care have created a culture of service right here in Florence.
Hey, welcome. We're so glad you found us. Radio Free is a 24-hour Christian mix radio station broadcasting right here out of Florence, South Carolina. So when you're driving around town, remember to tune it in to 92.5. And if you're outside of the Florence area, you can listen 24 hours a day at radiofree.cc.
Bo Myers, welcome to Radio Free, sir.
Thank you, sir.
You know, you're one of our favorite people. I'm just going to say that.
Appreciate
that. Right out of the gate. We appreciate you in so many ways. And I've gotten to know you a little bit over the years, and there's so many layers to Bo Myers. And so hopefully we're going to get into some of those today. The heart behind this show is that we're called to love our neighbors. Hard to love your neighbor if you don't know who they are. I think you are kind of a classic example of a guy who operates a lot behind the scenes. So we want to bring you out front, get to know you a little bit better. You run a ministry here in town called Junebugs Care. We've talked about that a lot here on the station. We've interviewed you before, but we're going to dig a little deeper today, hopefully. Before we get into that, let's get a little bit of your story here. I know you a little bit, but I think our viewers would be fascinated by a little bit of how you got to where you are today.
Ministry-wise?
Well, let's just talk about where you were born and raised, first of all.
Okay. Born in Raleigh, North Carolina.
All right.
Stayed there for a short time and moved down to about the Charlotte area. I am the product of a broken home. Parents got a divorce when I was about 3. Rough, heavy memories.
Yeah.
To go back on that.
Right.
I ended up, the majority of my growing up time was with my mom and stepdad.
Which was in Charlotte area?
In about Charlotte, outside of Charlotte.
All right.
With my older brother. And we, at some point, we had a vacation home down at Garden City.
Okay.
And before I started the 6th grade, we packed up and moved to Garden City, away from Charlotte. I think it was probably to keep me out of trouble. I don't know that I ever heard that directly, but knowing me, it's probably a good.
But taking you to the
call.
Beach sounds like you're heading towards trouble.
That's just a different kind of trouble started.
All right, so you moved to Garden City, and that's where you did high school and that sort of stuff?
Right, middle school, high school.
Okay. And then you ended up here in Florence eventually.
Right.
In a police uniform.
I did.
Tell me about that.
What brought me to Florence actually was dead between middle school and high school. I met this girl from Florence, and she ended up in Garden City with her best friend on a week vacation in the summer of 1990.
Remember it vividly, huh?
Vivid. Sunday afternoon. So yeah, we hit it off. No email, no text back then. I mean, it was pen to paper, stamped envelope relationship for a while.
That's special, man.
And we kept that going. We married about 5 years later, and have been. This will be 26 years this summer.
Congratulations.
Of marriage.
That's
so
fantastic.
she is my rock here on earth, Leslie.
And we love Leslie too. We were just talking about her a little bit before we got started. We need to have her in here, I think.
Absolutely. So, she should be here instead of me.
She's on the list. Tell her she's on the list, so get ready. All right, and then, like we said, you ended up here in Florence because of Leslie.
Correct.
And somehow got into policing. How did that work?
I did. We spent the first 8 years of our marriage in the Greenville area. Her dad had learned that he had an illness, sickness, and about the time we moved back here to kind of take care of him, we learned he had cancer. It was aggressive, all that, and it's just, I mean, the story is like a plate of spaghetti because that's kind of how that summer went. But I did start with the police department here in Florence.
Now, had you dreamed of doing that, or is that something that
Since I was 9.
Really?
My desire was to be not just a law enforcement officer, but in forensic investigations.
Wow. And you chased that dream down, huh?
Chased
That's
it.
fantastic. Well, I didn't know that it was a dream of yours that whole time. That's really cool. And so you were on the Florence Police Force for how long?
Oh my, 12 and a half years.
12 and a half years. Okay.
9 or so of that was in the crime scene unit, all the way up to the supervisor of that unit before I left there to pursue another ministry.
All right. Which is?
I am currently the deputy coroner of Florence County.
That's and that's still in that forensic zone in
It
your
is.
mind.
I believe it is.
Yeah. It feels like still what you were chasing after. Well, good. And that's been going well. You said before we got started again that's been busy.
We have.
Yeah.
That's a steady field. We're involved in a lot more than folks realize.
And I'd love to talk about that at some point too. But for the sake of this time together, I want to talk about Junebugs Care. But before we get there, catch us up to speed on your faith journey. I always feel like that's at least an important part of everybody's story, an interesting part, but it's vital to this, I think, to kind of understand where you're coming from. So were you raised in a church situation?
I was not.
Okay.
I was not. I don't know if it was the product of the brokenness of my home, or, of course, twice the opportunity to go, but it just never followed through. My church experience was spent during the summers. My grandparents' farm in North Carolina. That was it's Sunday, we're going to church, kind of thing. Outside of that, back home, we may have gone at Easter. We may have gone around Christmas. Beyond
Grandparents
that,
were serious about it.
grandparents were more serious. I'd go to the fall festival Halloween parties at the local church.
Okay.
But my grandparents were a little more. Actually, my great grandparents were real serious about it.
So you were hearing about it, but when did it actually click, you think?
Oh my! I tell you, sometimes I wonder when it's gonna click for real.
Any day now.
But
right?
my grandfather and grandmother separated after. I honestly don't know what length of time of marriage. He was in his 70s, and I was able to. Leslie and I together were actually able to kind of watch his transition into himself, and from the sidelines, kind of watched. He never overly exposed his desire to join a men's Bible study, to get involved in the church again in his 70s. We did learn late in the year of 2020 that he had rededicated his life to Christ. Wow. I think that really still didn't. I didn't really know still what that meant. We had been, we searched around for a church. We knew if we were going to together bring kids into this world, they were going to have to know more than just the two of us.
Right.
And just we wanted that for them. And so we were part of a church.
Okay.
And honestly, I think we were still kind of sorting through it, trying to figure it all out.
Yeah.
Well, within a couple of months after learning this about my granddaddy, January 3rd of 2001, he died instantly of an aneurysm.
Wow.
And I saw more growth and connection between he and I in those few months than I had all the years growing up. And it was it was not really I learned a lot of lessons over the years. Here's how you drive. Here's how you, here's how you tie stuff in the back of a truck.
Right.
Here's how you drive a tractor. Here's how you cut the grass and stuff like that. But lessons aside, I learned his heart in those last few months and didn't realize it.
Yeah. Yeah. You didn't know that was.
I don't think he knew he was teaching me that. We, later that spring of 2001, Leslie and I devoted our lives and gave our lives to Christ. And I think that he was he was a seed in that. Yeah.
Well, the reason I wanted to bring that up into the conversation was because you're probably the my go-to in my mind if I was to think of a servant. Like if I wanted to show somebody what's a servant look like, you would be it. And there's something happened in you, it sounds like, that clicked that on. Certainly it's part of your personality on some level, but you are kind of head down. Okay, I'm here on this earth to serve others. And that's the heart behind Junebugs Care. So let's transition to that now. You are a helper, like we said, but at what point did you say, okay, I need to formalize this and make it its own thing?
We were, we had encountered sickness in the form of breast cancer with one of Leslie's best friend. Actually, go back to 1990. It was that friend, Adrian, that she was at the beach with.
How about that? Okay.
She had, her and her husband, they had a baby boy, and this was Leslie could fill in the numbers and the dates and everything a lot better than I could. But this was a re-diagnosis of breast cancer. She was young. I mean, this is, we've been around. I think this will be our 12th year. So this is 12 years ago. This is a re-diagnosis. We had learned just being close to them that the financial burden was inevitable for church families, just dropping a check in your pocket or writing a check and putting it in the mail or anything like that. And we didn't really know a lot about that other than, hey, let's open a special account. But then, maybe there's some limitations there. Yeah. So we kind of thought, hey, let's organize a fundraiser. Well, kind of extra sometimes. So in organizing a fundraiser, we decided, hey, you know what, let's start a nonprofit. And let's do this for Adrienne and her family. Let's do it for other families that we learn about. And that was actually in May of 2009.
Okay.
Our very first fundraiser was at Sherall State Park. It was a kayak fundraiser because we kayaked together as families.
Ah, okay.
And the Lord woke me up, in a cold sweat in the middle of the night, and He said, "Paddle for her." And that was the name of our fundraiser.
So that's when it became like an institution at that point, I guess, right? And was it called Junebugs Care from the beginning?
Right off the bat.
Okay. And I know some of this stuff. We've talked about it before, but tell us about what the name is about.
My daddy-in-law, when we learned we were pregnant, he was beside himself with excitement that he was going to have a little June bug because our first was due in June. And as quickly as his cancer progressed, we lost him the October prior to that. And, he hadn't met Grace yet. And 2 years after Grace was born, the Lord gave us Caroline in June. So we had two. He was excited about one June bug.
Right.
So now we have two June bugs. Well, what do you do with two June bugs? You name something after them.
There you go. All right.
So we care about the community that God has placed us in. We learned a long time ago. We spent a lot of time up in the Greenville area. We loved it up there. We tried to grow and just kind of make things happen where we were.
Yeah.
We were the only ones there, no family or anything. So we knew by coming back to Florence, where family and friends were, that we would be able to grow and plant and harvest. So we care. We care about where we are, where God has us. So the connection of that, just Junebugs Care. The girls probably, we were doing this way before they probably realized, we called them out about it by name. But that's the namesake.
All right.
And they have been, since the onset, they have been right by our sides with everything.
Yeah.
No matter the chore, Grace shows up and she will. I could set her loose, and she could organize a wheelchair ramp build on her own.
And how old is Grace?
Grace is 16 right now.
That's special, man.
Yeah, and Caroline's 14, and she is right there with us, and just it's such a sweet time because I can tell with her, she is just starting to love on people.
Caroline?
And Caroline is loving on people. She is so much like her mama. And just the two of them, the two personalities, I couldn't imagine serving without them.
That's so cool. All right, so the start then was this, you're helping your friend for a financial need, but it has sort of morphed into some other things, right? I think from what we've discussed, it's pretty loose. You can steer it wherever you want, but have you kind of like focused in on doing wheelchair ramps?
We've actually kind of learned over the years that way back then doing wheelchair ramps, and we started that October doing our first ramp. We've done numerous ramps since then. We've also learned that there's a lot of church groups, a lot of men's groups,
Right.
a lot of retiree groups that are building ramps. And along with that, they're building ramps. They're doing basic home repairs,
Right.
kind of trying to keep people in their house. Those are areas that we would probably, if we're going to move away from anything, I'd be more comfortable moving away from that. But in seeing the need,
Yeah.
and caring for those where God's put us, and we've established feeding programs and homeless ministries, and that's a whole nother arm of our service.
So describe
it has
this
more.
service then. Like, say you were given an elevator pitch. Someone asked you, "What is Junebugs Care?" Like, give me the spiel.
We're led by God to meet the need, to meet people's practical needs.
Simple as that.
And I think that it's as simple as that.
Yeah.
And if that need looks like groceries, at times it's looked like rent. At times it's looked like a bus ticket to get out of town.
Wow.
At times it looks like a bus ticket to get to a doctor's appointment. Many times it looks like feeding several people in a park. And we want to be that fluid. We want to meet that need.
Well, you're doing it, and can you maybe catch us up to speed on what you've been doing lately with that? Just kind of give the viewers a kind of a taste of what the day in the life of Junebugs Care is.
Last year was, man, I don't think we're through all of it yet. I think the Lord's kind of putting us back on our feet. But we have experienced some changes from last year. We couldn't be as hands on with folks, and it's more for the general benefit of our volunteers and the folks that we're serving, and but really we want to partner with other organizations that are led to do similar things that we are. We know that we can't get out and lead the pack and do all that. We're small. I don't know that the Lord wants us to be much bigger than we are right now.
Interesting.
But
you don't hear that from a lot of people. That's
Yeah,
some
and
humility working right there.
Well, I'm satisfied with that now.
Yeah.
The Lord's got my hands in a lot of different areas, and He's filled my plate. He's taken some things off. He's put stuff right back on, and sometimes He's given me 2 plates to carry.
Yeah.
But and that's He has sustained us through that, and I can't argue with that.
Yeah. No.
But we receive, we may receive a phone call that says, hey, listen, we've got a group that wants to serve. We don't know what to do. So we'll look at the calendar, throw something down on the calendar and find a location, and may invite them to help us cook and serve food.
So in that instance, you're just facilitating people who want to serve, and you're saying, I'll find you a way to serve.
That's it. Sometimes we do.
Okay.
Sometimes we're on the front side of that, to where we have a date in mind, we have a plan, and we try to be more routine. Like I said, that kind of got bruised up last year.
Yeah.
But to have a routine set about every other month, we want to have something on the calendar.
Yeah.
And then when we learn of people that are wanting to do stuff, then we can say, well, we already have this going on. Does it work with your schedule?
Got you. Yeah. Okay.
Blessing bags, handing those out to the homeless ministry.
Talk about those. What does that look like?
Those are, we got a lot of church groups. I'll tell you, we've got senior groups that have blessed us, and that's more along the partnership that we have with Whosoever Community Church, and we still hand out the bags if we're doing a feeding, a meal, but then they're also on the shelf too during a church service. Somebody needs something, it's there to hand
So
out.
what's in a blessing bag?
Blessing bags are practical items, hygiene items. It could be a bar of soap, could be a little bottle of body wash, toothbrush, toothpaste, washcloth, pair of socks, sometimes a T-shirt, and a lot of times we challenge the folks that want to kind of put those bags together to go a step further and actually provide us with about a $10 gift card to a restaurant.
In the bag as well.
In the bag as well. So when we hand that out, they've got a Burger King or a McDonald's or a Wendy's gift card that they can. I'll tell you what, somebody who's homeless can use that 3 times.
Yeah,
and know how to use it, and they'll use it a lot better than I would. But we just and we want to be able to challenge folks that want to come alongside of us to go to the next level and say, listen, this pair of socks, washcloth, soap, that's all great. That's awesome. We also have these reusable water bottles that they have a filter built in them. We do that. Those cost money. We want to be able to throw in a bag, but if you can kind of, add to your donation of the bag, then we can make that happen along with, gift card. And always love to throw a Bible or some type of tract or something in there too, just so the word is going out every time.
Right. All right. So from building ramps to facilitating groups that want to serve to making specific bags for homeless folks, you guys cover a wide variety. Last time we talked, you were sort of trying to structure things. So say someone's listening and I know somebody who needs some help. How do they get in touch with you? What does that look like? How does that work? What's the chain of command?
Probably the best contact is by email, and that is serve@junebugscare.org.
Okay.
We have recently created a phone number.
Okay.
Wow. It's low end. It's a cell phone that I check on a regular basis. We'll set up a voicemail.
Nice.
And that way the need is there. But that number is 843-543-1799.
So someone could give that number to a person in need. They could call the number, communicate the need.
Right.
And
That's right.
And see what happens from there.
And we'd love to be able to connect, because we know that we may not be able to meet everybody's need.
Yeah, sure.
But I can more than likely connect them with an entity that would be able to serve and do that. And we've actually we're in the process of spreading these cards out
with the number on it.
With the number and contact on it. Some of the partnerships that we do have obviously are with House of Hope and Salvation Army, and some of the things that we have. I've recently joined the Mayor's Coalition Homelessness Committee. Wow. So those are partnerships, and that's exactly where we want to be, in partnership with these organizations that can help, because Junebugs Care cannot help in every area. So to learn and to know who does the best in that situation, we want to be able to direct folks that way.
Well, speak to that for a minute, Bo, because I think you are a good example of someone who understands the bigger picture kind of mentality, and that you've got your thing, but it's not in competition with this other thing. And some people still get lost in that. It's just, it's understandable. You're trying to figure out where you stand and what you're doing, and you want to pour your resources into what you're doing. But you somehow have been able to kind of look around the landscape and network, like you said. Talk to that. Why is that so important? I mean, some of it's obvious, but elaborate on that a little bit.
I think really because, honestly, for where the Lord has me right now, He has me in a full-time career, public service. I find it hard sometimes to break away from that and to dedicate as much time as is needed on a lot of different areas, whether they are projects, tasks, connections, any number of those areas. So the partnerships, if I get a phone call, sometimes it's just as easy as making a phone call and sharing that information. Sometimes it's more involved, and we're building a solid group around us for that. I've always relied on our volunteers. I don't know why they hadn't packed up and left, because we lean on them so much. Yeah. But we are actually building from that volunteer group. We're building a board of directors.
Nice.
So I'm empowering our board to go out and be, and go out and do, and go out and speak on our behalf. And I've been on boards of directors for years. It's time to promote what the Lord has put, our names on. Mm-hmm. And, just taking a lot of that education that I've gotten, but I want to share it. It's not about, kind of gathering up the tools and, I know where you can get that help. Well, that's not help if I don't tell you where that is.
Right.
And, obviously we want to share like Jesus shared. We want to love like Jesus loved. But honestly, I find myself connected more with John the Baptist than I do with Jesus personally. I am quite fine with stepping out of the way and going, you need to go see that guy because he's got a lot more than I got. Interesting.
Okay. And may your tribe increase, man, because that's a posture of humility and humbleness that, again, to me is so exciting to be in your presence, because that's something that is not easy, especially not for men, So I hope that will continue to increase. With that in mind, what are the projects coming up? What does the future look like? You got this board coming together, which is cool.
Right.
When is that going to kind of coalesce, you think?
We started.
Okay, good.
Yeah, we've started solid. I've always leaned on an advisory board.
Okay.
Which I guess I've kind of learned is nice to just kind of bounce things off of and say, hey, listen, we're thinking about doing this. What do you think about it? And but to actually have a board in place, we put that in place late last year, first of this year. So we're rolling solid on that. Love the folks that make that up, and then they've all come from our volunteer base. We are plugging ahead at the community meals thing. I want to do that better.
Talk about that a little bit for people who don't know. You definitely are known for that, I think, in some circles of doing these, but you say you want to do them better? What does that mean?
I think more often, more readily. We want to be able to, when we when we hear of a need, I want to be able to act on it quicker, and not kind of the way we did years ago with the ramps. We would learn of a ramp need. Well, the checking account looks like this, or we all work and our schedules look like this, or we either had money in the bank but we didn't have opening on the calendar, or vice versa.
Right.
But we grew through that. The Lord blessed us with routine giving, routine volunteers, so that became easier. This is just kind of the next step here. We want to do meals more readily throughout the year. Like I said, every other month or so, I want to be in the community providing something, and in some ways that may be a Junebugs Care banner. In some ways, it may be somebody else's banner, and we're standing by the grill and making sure that boxes get filled. And I'm fine either way, because I know that the Lord's put us where we need to be.
God, that's beautiful. For people who don't know about these community meals, there's a Thanksgiving one that it's been done for years now, but maybe describe what they're like. Say you said when you hear of a need, you want to be able to kind of pull the trailers up and go. Describe what that would be like. When you heard of a need, where would it? Is there a certain area of town maybe, or a certain population? And what does your crew look like that rolls out and handles business?
Oh, we're a rough-looking crew.
Yeah,
I'll tell you that. I think rolling out, it looks like we're actually have just acquired a large trailer-mounted smoker. from a good buddy of mine who's got a restaurant in Lake City. So we've got that as a tool, and we can put any kind of meat on that.
Okay.
And we can cook that, we can grill it, smoke it, and just feed the masses, literally. But that's where, I'm cautious about just throwing food out.
Sure.
Because I don't want to lose, and I feel like I'll own it. We've done that in the past, where we've just provided food and kind of skirted the relationship. If it's a matter of one or the other, we're gonna go for the relationship every time. And fortunately, I guess, to do that, to get that first introduction for that relationship, most of the folks that we see, homeless community, all parts of town, indigent, needy community, they're needing something. Could be a box of food. So that, that kind of goes hand in hand. Could be a bag of toiletry items.
Yeah, right.
Could be a grocery card, or a gift card for a grocery store. There's some type of transaction that gets our foot in the door to share the gospel. And that's one of my favorite questions to answer is, why are you here? Why are you doing this? And it's come from several different places, several different people. But I think that if we, with continued steady recurring support, those things just happen. We've noticed it with Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving, we just, we still do our. I think it's larger than any other time of the year, but we've scaled it down the last couple of years. But it is we're reaching folks, and the caliber of volunteers that come for Thanksgiving is like no other. We set up tents and tables, and my volunteers pray for the people that come and sit at the table. We even did that last year. We handed out masks, and you had to be masked, and we put out the precautions. People still wanted to be there. We didn't push it as much. We learned last year, actually, at Thanksgiving, that families built traditions around that.
Wow.
Absolutely floored and just blessed that we were part of that. I got a phone call and said, "Are y'all doing Thanksgiving?" Because we really hadn't heard much about it. Because we really, I got family coming up from Georgia. That's the only reason they're coming up is because we always serve on Thanksgiving. And then we do our family thing later.
Right.
But to hear that,
yeah, that's amazing.
Man, that makes me want to get out there every week and do something. And, the feasibility of it right now is not where, I don't think it's where God has us.
But it feels like it's building.
I think it's building,
Yeah.
and I think it's building. He's building relationships, and I'm like I said, I'm quite fine with directing somebody where I know that they're going to get better served than we will, and we receive that on the other side too. We get phone calls from other organizations, kind of the same thing. So listen, they don't really fit here, or we have a check. This is from the other ministry. We have a checklist. They don't really fit our checklist. We don't have a checklist.
Send them on, right?
I don't have a checklist.
Right. Right.
We want to learn of the need. We want to meet the need, and and a lot of our partnering agencies, organizations are aware of that, and I think we work well together. And I think the Lord's going to grow Florence and the giving community of Florence because of things like that. Because we're willing to go outside of our walls.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what my business card says. It doesn't matter what the side of my trailer says. And that's, I think we need to be a little more like that. But that's a hard sell.
Well, you're doing it, and you're the face of that, and we appreciate you spending some time here today discussing it because it is important. And just that, I think that if I could take away one thing from this, it would be that we don't have a checklist. That that's not for everybody, You know what I'm saying? Like, I think some people can't operate that way. God bless you for being able to operate that way, so that you're just ready to go whenever. That's fantastic. So, Bo, thank you so much for Junebugs Care. Thank you for following. You know, when you hear God's voice, I know you're on it always. And we will put the email address and the phone number along with this video, so that people can get in touch with you. And we thank you so much for what you do for this community, man.
Thank you, Kevin. We appreciate what y'all do and putting organizations like us on the air so that people can learn and have different opportunities, you know, because there's a lot of people that say, you know, I really want to do something. I want to get my kids out of the living room and go do something, but what is there to do? So I thank you for having that vision and getting us out there.
Getting some family tradition started.
That's
right?
it. That's
All right.
it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, brother.